Hi guys, it's Susan, and today I want to teach you how to make a simple bypass ring. So one of my favorite pieces of jewelry to make is a ring, and I like to work with sterling and copper, but I don't always have time to solder things. And so I wanted to figure out a way to make rings that I could stack that I didn't have to solder and that were really simple and fast. So I started making little bypass rings, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. They're really cool and really fun and really easy. Okay, to get started with this project, you're going to need quite a few little metalworking tools and also some wire and some beads if you want to decorate your ring. First of all, you're going to need a chasing hammer, and you're also going to need a ring mandrel. Then you're going to need your flush cutter and a pair of chain nose pliers. And then also some sort of bail shaping plier really helps. If you have this, it'll really make a big difference in making the wire into the circular shape. It's easier than just trying to wrap it around the ring stick. And finally, you're going to need something called a wire rounder. And this is a great tool. If you do not have one of these, you really need to get it. It has a little cupper on the end, but it's battery operated. So when you press that button, it spins and it rounds the ends of your wire. And you need that to make these rings. And you're also going to need a bench block. Almost forgot this little guy. And then as far as supplies are concerned, you're going to need 3 inches of 14 gauge or 16 gauge wire. I make it with both. And I'm going to use either copper or sterling silver. And then you're also going to need some 26 gauge wire if you choose to decorate your ring. You can see I'm wearing a couple here that I decorated with beads. And so you'll need some 26 gauge wire to wrap that on. And then if you want to have some pretty beads, you can have some little 3mm or 2mm beads, and they wrap on there. It looks so cute. So let's get started. One thing I neglected to tell you is that when you cut this 3 inches of wire, that's going to make about a 7 to a 9, the size of the ring. And if you want to make it a little smaller, like a 5 to a 7, then you're going to want to cut about 2.75 inches. And if you want to make it a little bit bigger, then you just cut it a little longer, like 3.25 inches. So this is kind of a medium size ring. And the cool thing about it is because they're bypass rings, one size fits many. So let's get started. First thing you're going to do is we're going to create paddles on either end of this wire. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this wire rounder to round the ends of my wire. So you just pop it on there like so and turn it on. And the reason I do this is because it makes a much prettier paddle. You can file it after you're done, but this really saves a lot of filing. So that's nice and round on the end, so that should make a pretty paddle. Okay, so now I've got my chasing hammer, and I'm just going to form the paddle on the end of this wire. So basically making a paddle is all about just hammering it flat. Just like so. And you just until you like the way it looks. Like that's about as flat and wide as I want it. You can make it a little bit wider if you want to, but you want to make it wide enough here at the end so that if you do wrap some beads on there, they won't slip off the end. All right, so let's do the same thing on the other side. There. Okay, now that one came out a little bit square. See, that's kind of square on that edge right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat file and I'm going to round that out. I'm just kind of going around. Now, I don't know if you guys just noticed, but when I file, I actually only file in one direction, and that's because these files only cut in one direction. So, I mean, you can go back and forth if you want to. I'm not stopping you, but it's only doing something when you push forward, like so. So now we need to make this into the shape of a ring, because right now it just looks like a stick with 2 paddles on the end, and that's no fun. So I'm just going to grab it with this wubber, which this is a bail shaping plier, and I'm just going to bring it into a basic circle, like so. It's kind of already starting to look a little bit like a ring, isn't it? All right, so now I'm going to put it onto my ring mandrel, and see how these pieces stick out on either side? That's kind of pokey and nobody would like that, so we're going to take our chasing hammer and we're going to push that down with the chasing hammer. And then I also like to texturize mine a little bit. You can use either side of the chasing hammer. So anyway, so I'm just texturizing around. Let me see. where I stopped there. And this will also make your ring grow a little bit. So kind of pay attention. And also if you want less of a bypass, like if this is too much for you, then what you can do is obviously cut it a little bit shorter. And essentially that's done as far as if you just wanted a very simple bypass ring. But what I like to do is I like to decorate them a little bit with beads. And so you can see this is what I'm about to do. Basically do a little curlicue and then add 3 beads, and I like to shade them, which is fun, and then finish them off, and that looks really pretty. All right, so now we've got our plain ring right here. I'm gonna get some 26 gauge wire and I'm gonna wrap these beads on there. So it doesn't take much. I'm just gonna cut about 6 inches and open that up just a little bit so I can get in there. And so now you see why you need that paddle, because we wouldn't want this wire to slip off the end. So, all right, I'm just gonna wrap it around a couple times. I like 3 wraps, so that's what I'm gonna do. So let's push that up against that paddle, and then I'm going to start with the dark. And string this guy on there. And you just want to place it just right on top of the ring, and then I'm going to wrap. I'm just going to wrap one time between, because I want my beads to be pretty close together. So let me come up through. So I want it to be secure, but I don't want a lot of space between the beads. So that's one. Next. So it's a little bit lighter, and that's gonna be the next bead. And I'm gonna go through, and notice when I'm wrapping, I'm pushing the wire through. I'm not trying to poke it through and grab it. I'm actually pushing the wire like that, and that just makes it a lot easier. You don't have a lot of wire. If you try to pull it through, it gets all kinked up, and so if you'll just kind of push it through like that, it kind of starts the process and makes it a lot easier to do the wire wrapping. All right, so now I'm just gonna wrap 3 times around the other side. 1, 2, 3. And then you have a couple options for finishing off your wire. You can either do a little curlicue right there, or you can finish it off underneath. It's nice if you do the little curlicue, because then you don't have any little piece of wire that could possibly catch on anything. So I'm gonna do that for you. All right, so you're gonna take that end and you're just gonna bring that into a little circle. And I always like to trim off just a tiny bit of that wire, so it makes a prettier circle. And then you're just going to coil this up into curlicue. It's not as easy when it's this tiny. And wrap it all the way up to that spot where you finished, and just press it down against your piece. See, now I wish I'd only done 2 wraps, but there you go. Cute. And then same thing on the other side. Coil it all the way up and then press it down, like so. And then you do the same thing on the other side. One of the things I always tell people that are learning how to make jewelry is that if the jewelry is not comfortable, no one will wear it. So always think about that, like before you make something really heavy or something with little pieces of wire sticking out, anything like that. It's just really important to pay attention to those little details, because it'll make all the difference in whether somebody can wear or will wear the jewelry you make. But so there basically is your bypass ring. And I've got this one that I've done where I have all the colors the same, dark on one side and light on the other. And you can see where I've got my little curls on this one. And you can also see that I've oxidized that ring, which makes it look really pretty up against those blue apatite stones. Just want to remind you guys of the tools that you need to complete this project. You're going to need a chasing hammer, a ring mandrel, You're also going to need some sort of bail making or bail shaping plier. You're also going to use a chain nose plier, and you're going to be using a flush cutter, as always. And then we also used a flat file, a bench block, and we used a new tool today. This is a wire rounder. Okay, and then as far as supplies are concerned, you're going to want to use either 16 or 14 gauge wire, which are heavier wires, and I use, when I'm making them, either copper or sterling silver. And then finally, if you're going to be doing any decorating, you're going to want to have some 2 or 3 millimeter beads to wrap onto your rings, and that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. If you'd like to pick up some supplies like the ones we worked with today, check out the links down below. Would you oxidize your ring, or would you leave it shiny? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time.